Hey everybody, it's Tim here, and I just wanted to give you an update on the progress of the 1941 Fillys Slat Grill Jeep. Yes, I said that correctly, Fillys. There's a few F's that I've discovered, so anyway, let's kind of get to what's been going on with this project. It's been about 3 weeks since I posted the video on the that shows the originality of the Jeep has been very well received, but there's a few things I forgot to show on that video. The first one, which we're under the passenger side, under the cowl, you can see it's still got some of the bolts for the fire extinguisher bracket are still there. And one other thing that I forgot to show is right here. Let's kind of get some good light under there. And that's the filterette is still there. So I haven't really investigated that very much, but it's still very much there. So I'm sure I'll be pulling that out and restoring that soon at some point. So really right now, I worked on it for about a week pretty hard, and then I recently had some outpatient surgery, so I couldn't really do much with it in terms of any sort of serious work on it. So I did a lot of little projects. So my goal here has been to is really to work from the front of the Jeep towards the back of the Jeep. My goal is to have the tub off by spring break, which is March. And I've got some good information on what's going to happen with that. In that, I talked with a local guy who's retired, and he ran a body shop here in town for many years. And he has restored several flat grill Jeeps in the process. I think he did an MB and I think he did a CJ2A, and he just did it for fun, and then I think he sold them both. But he's got experience working on these, and he has since his son has taken over his business. But he lives about a half a mile from me. He came over one day and we kind of went through it. And so he's interested in doing the tub as a partnership with me, and I'll do the things that I can do and he'll do the things that I can't do. And so a couple of weeks when I get this more stripped down, he's going to come back with some different tools and picks and things, and we're going to kind of figure out where the steel is good and where the steel is not good. Now also, I've been talking to the shop that I work with quite a bit with my normal cars, and he currently, last time I was in there, he had a 55 Thunderbird in there. But he does a lot of work on vintage cars for people in the community. And so I'm gonna take the transmission and transfer to him, and probably the steering box to get all that stuff rebuilt, and maybe the motor, depending upon what we find. So now where I'm at with the Jeep itself is I've been basically just taking things apart. Of course, the grill is off, and a lot of the other parts are off. We'll kind of go through some of that. Now, when we took off the blackout drive light, you can see the 3 holes for it. And I'm pretty sure that this thing took a bunch of water. My guess is that this was faced to probably the southwest, because a lot of water went this direction. And so water got under here and just completely ate this out. So this fender is actually really solid, except for right here. And I took a wire wheel to it to see what I had here. And then also I did a little bit with a cutting wheel just to see if there's good steel under there. And there is. So I think my plan is going to be to fill these holes first, and then I'm going to cut here and try and stay inside those holes, and then try and patch this with new steel. Now, inside on the fender, there was this horn that was mounted inside, and so I removed that, and it's rotted out under where that was at. So that's really just kind of right inside the fender, just below the hood. And the hat channel is got some damage, and then also the steel underneath the hat channel is gone. So I think I'm going to go ahead and try and patch that also. So if this goes well, then I'll start worrying about that down there. And I did actually order a new bracket for that, so I'll go ahead and pop the spot welds on the hat channel, and then repair the panel underneath it, and then put that back on top of it, and then clean this up. So I also used OSFO on this, which I've got probably about 1/3 of a gallon of OSFO, which I've had for a long time. And I've had mixed experiences with OSFO as a rust converter. In this case, I think this is kind of like some of the remnants of OSFO. I think it does a good job converting rust, but I don't think it does a good job of leaving a good surface for the future. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use the rest of that OSFO, but I'm going to use it on things that are going to be heavily restored or sandblasted in the future. Like, I would think that the frame would probably be a good candidate for it. Again, stop the rust, but then it's going to go to the sandblaster, so it's going to remove a lot of that crud, and it'll make a good finish. So that way the rust is completely gone, and then the sandblasting will then get rid of the crud on top of it. So I think that's a good plan. Now, I did buy a gallon, or actually 3 gallons of Evapo-Rust, which is sitting right there. By the way, there's my finished hand cart project, which I need to move to a new location. But anyway, and this is this 3 gallons of Evapo-Rust has got a little basket inside of it, so I can put things inside of it and let it soak and remove. And I've got a few things in mind. I'm gonna play with that. So anyway, this horn that came off of there, a lot of times, you look at stuff and go, oh, that's junk. And I said, I should probably look up what that horn is. And it's a 6-volt Uga horn is what it's called. And I found another one. It was listed for sale for $189 on eBay. Now, it's in much better shape than that one is. But so I went ahead and took it off, and I tested it real quick, and it works. It's very loud. So I listed that for sale. So maybe I can get some money back on this and maybe fund the cost of buying the correct radiator, or the correct horn for this one. Now, one thing I did do when I was working on Heap and I was changing out a lot of the bolts, I saved all those bolts. So I've got these right here in this little coffee can. So if I ever need bolts, I can always kind of go back in here. Again, here's the essential oils that I've got going on here. Primer, 2 different kinds of primer, paint remover, penetrating oil, things like that. I got the turn signals off. The turn signals were actually mounted down in here. And the good news about these turn signals is that I don't think any extra holes were drilled. There's a body mounting hole that goes to the fender right here. And that's how they were held on. Now, they were tough to get off because when the grill was still mounted, they were sitting in here like this. You can only get to them from the backside, and there was just no good access. But it all came off. Everything's good. And the grill's in good shape. And my goal here is to go ahead and finish as much as I can when I start on it, and just get as many parts done. And like these grab handles are things that I don't really need until way into the process. But and when I was, I couldn't do much work because of my surgery, so I could sit there with a wire wheel. So I went ahead and cleaned those up. There were a few small dents in them, and I used some filler just to fill in the small dents, just to make them look a little bit better. They're not perfect, but they're pretty good. So I think those turned out okay. The battery holder, the battery frame for Slat, slightly different. So I found plans for the 2 bottom pieces, and the ones I have in there are really, really weak and about to fail. So I used my time to fabricate these while I was home, not working. And I think these turned out okay. I'm my own harshest critic. I had a family that I work with at the school runs a metal fabricating company, and they make some handcart parts for me. And I asked them if they had any scrap 18 gauge they could sell me, and they said, yeah, we've got a bunch, and we'll, so just come by and you can get it. And they actually gave me a pretty large sheet of it, but it's galvanized, and I didn't want to use galvanized for patch panels because of the fumes for welding, but I thought that would be perfect for this, since over time these get exposed to battery acid and things like that. So there's actually the steel, then it's galvanized, and then I've got some self-etching primer on it, and then I've got some of the red primer on it also. So I think these turned out okay. The headlight buckets, again, those are in good shape. I posted a bunch of pictures of those on Facebook as I took them out. The biggest problem I have right now with these is these bolts are stuck, so I'm going to have to heat these. Probably do that later today to try and get those unstuck. And I think these are a good candidate for the evapo-rust treatment to see how that works. The blackout lights I've actually finished, and I've just got it all kind of stored in here. So these are painted and basically kind of ready to go back together. And I've got I've got bulbs, and I've got the full kit to rebuild those. And again, these are Carkerin brown, and they're marked on the inside CB. I'm not sure if you can see that. Oh yeah, there it is. You can see the CB number on it. But so those are original to the Jeep, and they're going to stay with the Jeep. I bought the MV Spares rebuild kit for those, so I think those are going to turn out real well. Now I happened to find this. I had this in a box of stuff. This is another blackout light I just happen to have, and it's also a Carkerin brown, but it's also marked on the front, whereas that one is not. The ones that came on the Jeep are not. So anyway, if something goes wrong, I need a part, I've got those. Let's see here. So my next step for this is going to be to remove the hood and the fenders, and that'll get me in, get the radiator off, and then I can start kind of dealing with that stuff. And get the fenders ready to go, the hood ready to go, the grill ready to go, and just try and get as many components as I can, and then I'm going to work my way backwards. Now the front bumper is jacked up because it's just angle iron, and you can kind of see this wonderful welding job they did to make it work. But I've actually got the new front bumper. It's in that box, got that from Peter DeBella. And I've got all the bolts, and in this bag are the gussets. And I got those kind of slick, no rivet things for that. I got the bumper bolts, the spacer, the wood block, all that stuff is here. So I'm in pretty good shape for that when I go ahead and decide to start it. I'm also trying to get as much stuff for the hood as I can, because that's going to be one of the first things that's finished. So I did go ahead and get the rubber hood blocks, and they fit perfectly in the holes. And then I've also got the hood hold down latches. Those are in there. And I'm going to reuse the original catches, which are in there. And then these are reproduction hold downs. So those are basically ready to be put back on. And then these are the windshield catches that go on the window, the windshield. Also, some other things I've been putting together. Again, just piecing these things together. The top bow bracket swivel. This is actually a Ford-mounted part. It was in kind of an odd position behind the driver's seat, mounted vertically. As you can see, it's a GPW part. So I'm trying to get as many of these assemblies together, which also includes the bolts. And then, again, here's the safety strap with the bow front bracket. And this is the original one that came off of it, which was on the passenger side. So I'll try and put that back on the passenger side. Okay, and then again, I've just been collecting parts. a lot of things. Now there was an original Ford marked spare tire holder here, and it had a bunch of damage here and here, and it'd been welded back together kind of ugly, and it was also a little bit off. So the top piece actually sat more like, rather than like this, it sat more like this. So I went ahead and ground on it for a little while, and thinking maybe I could, you know, fill in the rough spots on it, smooth it over, things like that. And finally, I just got to the point, I'm like, you know what, I just need to replace it. It's just not going to work for a project that I'm putting this much time and effort into. So I went ahead and just bought a replacement Ford Mark bracket. So I'm going to carry that Heritage forward here on the Slat grill, just because you know, that's what was on there. And the old bracket I sold to a friend of mine who him and his son are building a like an MB-CJ conversion, and it's good enough for them. So, and they needed one, so I made a little bit of money. I also sold the spare tire, or the fuel can carrier, which I'm not going to put back on this one. Some other stuff, just bolts. I've got the ignition key. Later today, I've got an MV Spares early wiring harness showing up, and the tail lights. I'll come back to the tail lights. Here's the chains, shift knobs, just little doodads that I'm just going to need later. Battery hold down, just the top of the battery. I've also got all the reflectors. In case you didn't see it on Facebook, here's the original bulbs. The original bulbs that came out of there. And these are Cochrane Browns. The different pieces. And again, this is a Cochrane Brown. And then you can, pretty sure these are 6-volt. Here. There you go, you can kind of see the sea light on it. One other adventure I had is, maybe you saw in the video, there was actually a tail light that was trapped in there behind the galvanized sheet metal that was put in there. So I went ahead last Sunday to try and rescue it. I had these images of this fantastic CB tail light, and no, this is what was back there. So I went ahead and cut away the galvanized sheet metal that was on the outside, and this is what I found. It was sitting like this. So it's pretty much toast. And did have what's left of some of the tail lights connectors on there. So with my wiring harness, I've also got 2 tail lights that are also showing up to replace that. So yeah, that was a bit of an adventure. It was kind of fun, but didn't work out. The grab handles that were on the corner were just junk. Like they were beat to crap. And I probably could have fixed them if I'm retired and had a lot of free time. I just didn't think that was going to work for me. And in the end, they may not look that good. So I just went ahead and got replacements, and then they've got bolts. And I actually sold those to a guy on the G who thinks he can fix them. I'm like, more power to you. Again, here's the early Tombstone style blackout light, which I've taken off. It's not going to go back on the Jeep. And I've actually got this for sale on eBay. Although if it doesn't sell, I may end up putting it back on my GPW, because this would be correct for my GPW, because it would have been a later work order add-on, and this is the style. Now I did see another recovered Slat that had this kind of a light on it. So I'm not talking the frame, but actually the bulb itself. I think Troy Wilkinson recovered one that had that on there, so I'm not sure what's up with that. But again, it's something I don't need, and you know, if it sells, great, I got more money to invest back into the Jeep. If not, it's all good. Just a few more things to show here. Again, these are the, I went ahead and got these, which are the Toolbox floor panels. I think these are Joe's Motor Pool. And I've also got the sump, the square slat grill sump, which I definitely know I need one of those because it's completely gone. And here you can kind of see where I did that tail light rescue, and there was actually galvanized covering this. And actually this panel, despite being rather beaten up, it's really not that bad a shape down here. It's not rusted out. My worry is that this was all just a bunch of rust. It's not, it's just not flat. So we'll see what I have to do with that. And one of my near future projects is to go through and just pop off all these galvanized panels and just kind of see what I've got underneath it. So there's one here, there's one that kind of covers over there, and then it's kind of the same story on the other side. One other thing I've got, which I picked up, it had an incorrect 50s era head on it. So I went ahead and picked up this head, Lily's head. It's not marked Peep, so it would be much, much closer and correct for my 1942 dated motor. So, and just one other small thing, which is going to get kind of fun here soon, in that I bought a welder. So I've been taking welding classes on Thursday nights, and one of my welding class buds is going to come over today, and we're going to unbox that and see if we can start filling some holes and some other stuff. So that's what's going on with the Slat. Happy Slatter Day, and you know, I'll see you on the next one.